Okay, all right. Thank you, Adirunke. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning from whatever part of the world that you're joining us from. Where I am, it's a beautiful Saturday here, and I hope you all have been having a fantastic day yourself. So thank you for joining us for today's online hangout. We welcome our storytellers for today, and we welcome all members of our audience. We are really grateful for your decision to share your time with us today. You are welcome to Relationship Realities. If this is your first time joining us, I just want to recap. Today's interaction is our monthly community hangout that is dedicated to real stories of real people. So what we do at Relationship Realities, when we have our community hangout, each month we have a life issue that we engage with. And for the month of February, our life issue is addiction. So we're talking about how different types of addiction, substance abuse, sexual abuse, sexual addiction, gambling. So addiction in all of its forms. It is one thing to talk about life issues, and then it's another thing to experience them. And this is why we invite individuals with personal experiences of those life issues to share with us. Real people, real stories. So this is what Community Hangout is about. Our intention is that we should make it easier for us to have conversations about this difficult life issues. We want to learn from one another, and we trust that from this sharing, we will be empowered in our choices going forward. Oh, sorry, I've just been told my video is not on. Sorry. Okay, so today our storytellers are Danisa Hobbs and Lawrence Akonde. They are going to share with us their life experiences around the issue of addiction. We have the proceedings of today in the format that each storyteller will have about 20 minutes to share with us, and we will take 10 minutes to take questions only. And then our next storyteller will share their life experience, and we'll take questions after. It is after our two storytellers have shared that we will now do comments where we can profile our comments on what we have gained from their sharing. But before we start, we'd like to play a video for us around today's topic. So just hold on for me. There we go.
If you would have told me back in 2006 that my boss would become the president of the United States, I probably would have told you were crazy. Most people came to know me in 2006 when I won Miss USA. And even more people got to know me later that year when I tested positive for cocaine. But what they didn't know was that I had been silently suffering from a nasty addiction from the age of 14. And I want to share with you a bit about my journey with addiction. My life was the perfect storm for addiction to manifest. I survived incest at 3. My parents had a rocky relationship, and alcoholism and mental health issues were very present in my family. I grew up in a really small town in Kentucky with a church on every corner, like the type of town where you could throw a Bible and probably hit a pastor on the head. And what was impressed upon me was that if I drank or smoked or had premarital sex, I was going straight to hell. And I remember thinking how unfair that seemed, because my uncle didn't give me a choice in the matter. So Fast forward to 14, my parents are going through a nasty divorce. My papa, my protector, and the only person that ever showed me unconditional love dies. And the pain and loneliness that I experienced were truly unbearable. And so when I'm on a cheerleading trip, it's an away trip to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and the juniors and seniors score a gallon of vodka from some nearby college boys. I was elated when they offered me some because I desperately needed to feel a part of something. So I mixed my first drink, and it was 75% vodka, 25% orange juice, and I chugged it like I'd seen my family do. And then I went back to the counter and I mixed 75% vodka, 25% orange juice, and I chugged that because I wanted to seem like I've done this before, right? My next memory is of me coming to, making a deposit to the porcelain gods. And I'm in the middle of this room, and the room looked like this. There were two girls fighting in the corner, some sexual acts going on the bed, and there was this poor girl that was in the bathroom, and she was crying and she was cutting herself, and I was just like, whoa, I have found my people. Because the chaos in that room looked just like the chaos in my mind. Until the next day when I woke up with the worst hangover of my life, and I was sweating vodka from my pores, and I was the little nugget that they would throw up in the air that would do backflips, and I was terrified that I was gonna exorcism style spew all over the audience. And my cheerleading coach was the president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, so God was there. And I was so afraid that I was gonna get caught, so I prayed to this God that I truly believed wanted nothing to do with me. And I said, hey, big guy, if you can get me out of this one, I swear I will never do it again. And I meant it. I made a firm resolution that day to never touch another drop of alcohol. And by the end of that year, I was hooked on morphine. See, I didn't know that by me having my first drink at 14 was making me close to 40% more likely to become dependent. I didn't know that my brain was going through rapid development. So when my parents would look at me and say, what were you thinking? I wasn't. My brain wasn't fully developed yet, right? And they would bring officers into our school and try to scare us straight with eggs on frying pans, and that wasn't scary. That looked like a good time to me. The average age that kids are drinking these days is 11. They're playing Russian roulette with their lives and they don't even know it. And there's no effective government-funded prevention program nationwide. So now I want to paint a picture for you. If an old man is strung out on heroin living on Skid Row, people assume that he made that choice. When Charlie Sheen is cracked out of his mind, there goes an entitled celebrity, right? When Miss USA fails a drug test for cocaine, what a bad role model she is, right? But when a 14-year-old dies of an overdose, now that's a tragedy. So now I want to talk about how we stigmatize this disease. When I failed a drug test for cocaine and Donald Trump chucked me into rehab, I faced the stigma head on, and people were calling me disgraced Miss USA. TMZ coined Mess USA, which is very witty, and I'm going to use that as the title of my first book. Thank you. Side note, it is also my gamer tag for Call of Duty for all the gamers in the room. And when I left treatment, I had to do a media tour because that's normal. And I had this man ask me, do you think you tarnished the crown? And all I could see was that 14-year-old version of myself who was molested by her uncle, whose parents are divorcing, who just lost the only example that she has of love, who has sought refuge in drugs and alcohol, have a muzzle put on her mouth because she just saw Miss USA be shamed on national television for being sick. I wasn't a bad person trying to act good. I was a sick person that needed to get well. And that was the fire that started my journey to advocacy. I knew that there were so many people out there that were suffering just like me. And I suffered for most of my life because I had no idea what it was that I was suffering from. I was so excited to get out there and share my experience with what I had learned in treatment because I really felt like I found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Addiction is one of the top healthcare issues in this country, and it kills more people than diabetes, heart disease, and cancer combined. There's an airplane full of people dropping from the sky every single day, and it's the most underfunded healthcare issue. People are being incarcerated for being sick. 80% of inmates suffer from substance use disorders, and almost half of them have been locked up for drug-related offenses. They don't need to be held captive. They need long-term recovery. Thank you. In schools, where our children spend the majority of their time, there's no government-funded, effective prevention program out there. And addiction starts in adolescence. Science tells us that prevention and treatment work. It's estimated that substance use costs our society around $442 billion a year. If more people had access to treatment, and if there were better prevention programs, mandatory, that were in place, we could take a chunk out of our national debt. We don't need to lock people up or build a wall. The drugs are already here. I found mine in my parents' medicine cabinets. In November of last year, the U.S. Surgeon General made an unprecedented report on drugs, alcohol, and health. And he issued a new call to action. There are currently 20 million Americans that are struggling with addiction, far more than those diagnosed with cancer, and only 10% of them will receive treatment. We all love to sensationalize the problem. I've been guilty of it, right? But rarely do we hear that Miss USA just celebrated 10 years of sobriety. Thank you. Dr. Vivek H. Murthy said that how we respond to the addiction crisis is a moral test for America. There are over 20 million people in long-term recovery. So what? I mean, I will share my dirty laundry to whoever will listen, but I challenge those who are in long-term recovery and all of the families whose lives have been recreated because of recovery to join together and recover out loud. Then maybe we can take the shame away from those who are in the shadows and encourage them to step into the light. I know I will. Thank you.
You're muted, Sister Jem.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. I said stepping into the light this glorious afternoon to share their story with us will be Lawrence Akonde first, and then Danisa Hobbs, who most of us know as Lady D. She will go after him. So Lawrence Akonde, over to you. You're welcome. Thank you for your willingness to be in the light this afternoon. We would like you just to tell us briefly about yourself, and then the floor is yours. Tell us your story. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Hello, okay. My name is Lawrence Akode. Okay, and I was born 4th of July, 1971. I was raised as a Christian, a good boy, church boy, and so my life was pretty easy when I was growing up until 1997 when I lost my mom, and that's actually was a turnaround in my life. I thought I'd lost everything. Actually, that was what brought me to Christ. apart from the fact that I grew up as a church boy. Then my life has been like that. I know when Aderonke told me about addiction, I look at my life. I don't drink, I don't smoke, and then what kind of addiction I'm going to talk about? Then I look at my life. Then I checked it and I realized that I had an addiction which came out of my marriage. So in 2001, I got married, but I never knew that I made a mistake or I didn't do it very well. I was so spiritual that I thought everything is about being spiritual when you want to choose partner. So everything you handle it prayer. Uh, you hear what to think, what you want to hear. But there are some other things that I didn't take notes that were clue to the kind of relationship I was going to. But I think everything can be handled in the realm of the spirits. So I got married 2001, and shortly after that, the whole thing turned out to be what I was not expecting. Why did I get married? I got married because I thought I was about 30 then, that I'm old enough, even though I was in school, but I had business, things were going on for me. And also, I got married because the Bible says to avoid fornication, get married. It was on that platform actually that I got married, thinking that, okay, all they told us when we were doing counseling was like, oh, anytime you want it, once you are married, this. It was sweet, sweet things. I was dreaming of that. But when I got into it, the reality dawned on me. And then I realized, and being a born again Christian, then you don't want to, you can't get out of it. Divorce was actually a taboo from both my family and also the church. So I was struggling. Shortly after I got married, we gave birth to my first son. That was in 2002. And after then, it's only when my wife wants sex that we can have it. When I want it, no. It was then I got into what became an addiction, masturbation, just as a way of escape. Just I can't, as a Christian, you can't have girlfriend outside, and then you can't do anything. And she also she always brag in that because when I was a youth, I made an oath with God that God, I will not have sex with any woman until I get married. So that God, if I do it, let me go blind. So she was bragging in that I will never have any sex with somebody outside marriage, because if I do it, I go blind. So I was caught in a corner. So all I had to do is I was masturbating for years, all the time that we were in it. Well, the marriage actually ended after 16 years. And I was not the one who asked her to go because one of the things I promised God, I never lay my hands on a woman or ask a woman to get out of my house. Then when she decided, she planned with her parents, with her mother and the sibling, and then she left. I was better for it. I was once in China where I did my master's, and I had every reason to stay back there because they wanted me to stay back, but I said no, I have to go home. Even a year after I came back, they sent me PhD admission to come back. The school needed me. They wanted me to do PhD and stay there. But I came back, and when I came back, I saw hell. Everything turned bad. I was working with Nigerian Film Corporation, federal government, even before I traveled. And when I came back, I resumed. But I saw hell when I came back. Everything just turned around. The corporation refused to pay my money. They're still owing me millions of naira, I don't know reason. And then I was at a point, I resigned. And let me see with my family. I bought some equipment. I'm into film production. That's what I study. I bought some equipment to start the film school. There was somebody that came with the governor of your state when I was in China. I was the president of Nigerian Student Association in Beijing. And I met these people, and this woman was telling me that she wanted to start a film school, but she couldn't because her husband won't allow the father. And when I came back, I visited her. She promised that she's a politician, that they have a building that I can use to start the film school. After the meeting, I started calling the woman. The woman won't pick my calls. No job. Everywhere I go for interview, they say you are the best candidate. We'll get back to you. I get back home and tell my wife, this is what they said. That it won't be possible. Until this fateful day, it was going to rain. And normally she doesn't allow me to enter my guest room, which she say all manner of things that no, it's not good for man to be enter a guest room. But this day it wanted to rain, and I thought of if it rained, the rain might enter the room. So I went there, and I saw when after closing the window, I saw something on the floor. What is this? This is a like a church bell. I picked it. When I picked it, I saw what was under the church bell. What is this? As my wife gone diabolical, I couldn't imagine it. I entered the rain to my sister's house that see I've seen something. Before that time, she's been behaving like this is like my sister even said, this woman has swallowed something. Then I saw that I went to her house. Where did you find this? I said in my daughter's room. I entered the rain again to my uncle's place, who is the only one left for us as a father. That one also saw it. I said, why? Why will this woman do this? When the children came back, I asked them, who put this there? They said their mother. Where did she get it? She said somebody did it for her. That thing that they put there was my cover clothes. It was real diabolical. That was what was messing my life around. I didn't know. I didn't believe in it. Then that day I prayed. I really prayed. Immediately after the prayer, phone started ringing. Job I've applied for a year ago, they started calling me all manner of jobs. People are calling me, now let's shoot film. Then the one that surprised me most was I received a text from a recruiting agent in London. I said this one must be 419. Then the person called me, said, are you this? I said, yes. He said, there's a job for you. You are the one qualified and this. Where did you get my phone number? Where did you get my name? She said, on LinkedIn. And then I believed them. They said I should send my CV. I sent it that day. The following day, I was asked to go to Lagos office of the people that needed my service. I went there. I did an interview with an expatriate. Then the following day, I think I received my letter of appointment. It was an international job. My salary then was $1,400 from nowhere. It was wow. Then it dawned on me that truly it is what I saw that has been tying up my destiny by my wife, by someone I called my wife. I never believed it. So my life was something else until that very day. And while this thing was going on, while I was going through this, I developed all manner of things. My brother would call me and say, see, if you die, this woman will marry somebody else and your children will survive. So you need to actually think about your life. But this was a miracle. But the issue that I want to point out is that because of lack of sex in my relationship, I developed addiction for masturbation. There's no point since my wife won't allow me to make love, then I can go into the bedroom and do it. I feel okay. But it was a real challenge. Remember, I'm someone who grew up from a Christian background. As a youth, I didn't have girlfriend. No girlfriend. I purposely did it because I thought that will make me to have the best of marriage. No girlfriend. Even I was in the church choir. If you know Winners Chapel very well, Living Faith, Ibadan. If anybody you ask Law Oluolu, that was the name people called me, like my stage name. I was very popular. Everybody thought I'm going to be a pastor. Even the bishops, we say, come and be a pastor. Come. Uh, but I try to manage my life that I will have a very good marriage. But it didn't happen. And there's a lesson I learned from it. Is the lesson that you don't have to be too spiritual. I was too spiritual. And it's a lesson I've learned that when you want to go into relationship, open your eyes, open your ears, even more than you go into, because most of the time when we go into prayer, we hear what we want to hear. You hear that, this is the right, because you want to, because you already in love. But when you open your ears, I remember some people telling me there was a man, a deacon in church, who lives around where that area where my ex was living, who told me that don't marry this person. I didn't take time to ask, sir, what did you see? The first time I get into the family, everything, the aura around that place shows me that this place you are entering is not the right place. But I was no, is there anything God cannot do? Yes, I can pray it. I was a man of faith, actually. And as a youth, I don't use medication. I pray. I use for you to know the kind of person I am. I pray for people and you are healed. I pray for those who are looking for fruit of the womb. Everybody thought I'd be a pastor. But when it comes to my own issue, I thought I'd done everything. I forgot to use my senses. Or maybe because I didn't have experience about relationship. And the whole thing was going on and on and on like that. I tried for 16 years. 16 years that it's going to be okay. I bought her books. Let's go for counsel. She won't agree that everybody has problem in their houses. So why should we go? I don't want She doesn't want to go. And all my everything I did. At one point I just took it like that until when she decided to go. But that has been the best decision of my life. People said, why did I allow her to go? But that has been the best decision of my life. Today, I'm doing better. She can never believe it, what happened to me. They thought we have finished this guy. When I saw that thing and the whole thing changed, they, none of them in their family could believe it. But my family were happy that I took that step, that I allowed her to go. So that has been the story of my life, but God has been faithful, even with all the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for being open. Thank you for your willingness to share what your experiences have been. I just want to acknowledge all of us who have joined us this evening. Thank you so much for your time. I see, yeah, well, I just welcome everybody. I would like to take a few questions. So do we have anyone who wants to ask Mr. Akonde questions about, based on what we have heard from him this afternoon? Please just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask. Is Yin Yefa asking a question?
Yes, Nilayefa.
My sincere apologies for mispronouncing
No,
your name.
I was having fun when you were trying to call it.
Thank you for being such a good sport about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay,
Please
thank
go
you. So,
ahead.
Mr. Lawrence, thank you for this. God bless you indeed. I've
Amen.
listened to your part, and I'm really appreciative of the fact that you could actually come up, open up, being a Christian, As you were talking, I was just thinking how many of us are so broken, in the church, covering ourselves up, But anyway, my question is, how did you overcome it? What and what did you do? What processes did you go through? How do you triumph over that issue of masturbation? Thank you.
Well, triumph over addiction is something that it takes a lot. It takes time. It takes time, and it takes the grace of God. You know, I maybe I should say this before I go on. I am not perfect, and that is one thing I realize uh, with everybody. But the most important is the willingness. I'm still, even to today, I'm struggling to keep at the pace I was before I got married. If you know me when I was when I was in the days of my youth, I was everybody everybody thought I was going to be a pastor. Number one, I was raised as a boy that I don't know how to tell lie. I don't tell lie. I tell you what I want to tell you. But things like that, when you now got caught up in the web of something that you are not used to, it takes the grace of God. I really need to believe and to ask for the help of Holy Spirit, and also to avoid what can make you to fall back into what you do. So it's the grace of God, and I'm still believing God for more grace, for more grace.
Thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Do we have another question?
Okay, so that means he didn't go for counseling, like professional counseling. He didn't do any of that.
No, I didn't. I think most of the
Okay.
thing I do is is on my knees, because I always ask God, God, I want to get back to where I was. I want to get back to. I I'm more. I agree up, but if you come to my library, you see all those books that I read even as a young kid. So my relationship with God, that's one thing that matters most to me, and I always come to God. Uh, I never go for counseling except for counseling from my people. My brother will tell me, no, this is what you should do. Don't overburden yourself because of this. I have never been to any counsel, even though I have discussed with some pastor friends.
Do you believe in professional counseling? Do you believe in professional help that is available for you?
Yes, I believe. I believe. You know, when I was having this developing high blood pressure, one thing I realized is that they told me, actually this was the doctor that told me. The doctor said that I've been keeping things to myself too much, that I need to open up, because you know where we came from, especially you were as an African, or especially Yoruba. When it comes to the issue of sex in marriage, it's not something you can open up and tell people, because your wife will tell you, is it food that you're telling people about? Is it food? And your family too will say, is it because of sex you are quarreling? So it's not something you can open up and tell people that this is what I'm going through in my family. So if you don't open up, you will not be able to get help. So you only need to see those people that you trust, like my brother, or someone who is older than I trust, to say that, see, this is what is going on in my family. So I believe in it. I believe in seeking help when you need it. Actually, you need it. You need counseling. One of the things that made my matter worse was, um, I'm a melancholic choleric. I think more than I talk. You don't see me talking somewhere except if they're talking on the topic that I'm interested in. I can stay in the place and I'll be watching everybody for. You won't you won't hear anything from me. I'll be only be thinking about what you're saying. I don't tell people. I hardly open up to people. So it is good if you can open up, let people know what you are going through, because that is where help you learn from people's experiences, and then you can plug into it and then find a solution to whatever you are going through. So I believe in counseling.
Thank you for your honesty. Do we have another question? If we
Um,
do,
sure.
thank you, Zipporah. Go ahead. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for sharing. That was very eye-opening. And I think this is not just a question to Lawrence, but I think just generally to everybody, because this is, like he said, this is a subject that we don't quite, I don't know, we don't deal with in like where we're coming from. And it's just really around sex in marriage. I think there's a misconception somewhere, there's a gap as to how women perceive sex or how men perceive sex. Women, for women, I don't think sex is much of a priority for them. For men, it's at the top of the list. I feel like somewhere in between, we are missing that connection, and you see people going into marriages. And for me, I'm going to be very sincere, because I'm married. It was definitely something that I had to learn in marriage. I'm coming to that understanding that yes, sex is, you don't play with it. You don't play when it comes to. So I just feel, is there something we are not saying right? Is there something we're missing? Is that communication? Because I don't think it's something to be ashamed of, especially because it's within the boundaries of marriage, which is permitted by God. And what do we think we can do better? How else do we think we can help? Because I feel like it's unfair, especially to the men, because of how it's kind of frowned at when, like he said, you're a man, why are you complaining just because of sex? And do you get? But then it's really a big deal to them. So I'm just throwing it out there as maybe a discourse to see how we can really educate or sensitize married folks, mostly women, as to prioritizing sex. Thanks.
Okay. There's something I want to say. I think because when I was having problem in my marriage, I had to look back. What did I do wrong? What was actually the mistake? I think one of the mistake I made was the person I got married to was not the kind of person I should, because of where we were coming from. From the little I knew about her past, she's somebody who has been engaging in it and possibly was about getting tired of it. By the time I met her, she was tired of it. And I was coming into, I want to start experiencing it. And it was two polarity. So to her, she wants to get married, have children. I want to get married and start enjoying sex. And when I got into it, she has a first child, a son, and was like, my son is now, the way we do in Nigeria, your son become your husband. My son, no, my husband, and your real husband, you don't even have time for that one again. It's like, what is it? Ah, I'm tired. I'm taking care of my son. I'm taking care of my child. So you don't have time. And this thing is, when you expected something, and when you are doing counseling, they will tell you that anytime you want it, it's time now you enjoy when to marry. And I got married and was not enjoying it. It was now, is it food? Why should you be asking for it? I'm tired. And it's something that we really need to think about. Believe you me, it's one of the mistakes that I feel I made. If I had married someone too who want to enjoy it, maybe it would have been another story than somebody who thought, I'm tired of it. What is it? I don't think I want it again. I think it's one of the mistake I made. So sometimes I wanted to blame myself that I didn't enjoy it as a youth. But Is there anything wrong with it? No. If I had married someone too who wanted to start enjoying it, maybe it won't be the way it was. And especially our women, please, I want to beg you. I don't know, like she said, maybe our thinking, men's thinking about sex is different from women thinking. To be candid, to man, it's more than food. Oh. It's more than food. That is the first thing because I did research, maybe because I'm a teacher. I did research and I tried to find out the major cause of broken home. If a man doesn't enjoy that, there's nothing you can do. But a woman doesn't most of the time say, no, I'm tired. Or let me, another thing is that some women use it as a bargaining chip. I want this, you don't give me, don't touch me. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It's something that I always tell my students, even in school, I tell them, see, when you get married, sex is to be enjoyed, not to be endured. Don't endure, don't say, no, I'm just, it's because he's my husband. So they said he can touch me. No. So you must enjoy it. So if you don't have to endure it and just say, I'm only enduring it because it's the responsibility of a woman. No, you have to find a way around it and make sure you enjoy it because that's what will keep your marriage strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence, for that. I think this whole issue about Chioma, please can you mute yourself? Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry, I couldn't help but chuckle. I mean, that's fire. Okay, this whole issue about sex in marriage is a topic that is huge. And I think it's something that we can really talk about and we can go on for like 24 hours. And as Lawrence was speaking, I just thought about no sex marriages because those kind of marriages actually exist where there is hardly sexual intercourse between the husband and the wife. Tobechuku says, I think culturally as women, young girls, we learn about sex as something to be ashamed of. I think it's a socialization in, I don't want to generalize and say African culture, but I think there is a socialization in our society that, just looks at sex in that light. And so for a girl or a girl child or a woman, sex is this thing you don't talk about. It's a taboo. It's something you're ashamed of. A woman can't, her sexual drive, her sexual appetite, her sexual preferences, she's not encouraged to speak freely about that. But then think about young boys, young men who speak about their conquests. I took this girl to bed. So it's a different world for men and for women when it comes to sex. I also know, and I concur with you, Lawrence, that men have they have a higher level of sexual appetite than women, but that's an entirely, it's a huge topic that we can really talk about. Simi's hand is up. Please go ahead and ask your question, and you have 30 seconds for that.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for sharing. I'm just curious to know, like, practical steps that you take to avoid or to stay sexually pure. I mean, I have been without a partner for like 2 years now. And, I was talking to someone yesterday and jokingly, the person said something like, oh, maybe you're numb, I don't even have to I don't even have to do those practical steps because I don't know if I've attained that stage of numbness, and maybe it's from pain, maybe it's from, but there are people who are struggling with that sexual purity. And, what are the practical steps that you take to stay sexually pure, especially for a man with a sex drive, what do you do, like practical steps?
That's a big question. Like I said
Sorry.
earlier, like I said earlier, I'm still praying and trying to get to where I used to be. You know, in those days, as a youth, what I can say that I used was I made a covenant with God. That was what I did then. That God, if I had sex with anybody before marriage, strike me with blindness. And that was keeping me. It wasn't easy, but now I remember when I wanted after I got married. I know that one has expired, and I wanted to take another oath. Holy Spirit stopped me from taking it. Said no, don't do it. And I couldn't understand. But now I'm not perfect. Oh, I'm not. It's not that I've attained that purity. No, but that is the truth. Sometimes I still masturbated. That is the truth because yeah, the only thing I won't do is that I don't have a girlfriend and I won't do it. But I sometimes the urge is there and you can't help it. But I pray to God every day, just like what Paul, the prayer that Paul prayed. Deliver me from this flesh. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But no matter what, I try to keep myself from I keep myself away from women. Number one, I have my children all around me. Women don't come to my house. What will you be looking for? So I try to keep that distance, and that's I've been doing that one for long. Even when I was before I got married, as a choir leader, very popular in church. No, girls don't come to my house. Oh. You don't come. I keep that distance. There's one of my friend now. She knows me very well. Even when we were in school, she was my classmate. Shola listen, which a lot of you might know her. Shola listen. We were classmates, very good friend. She knows me in the days of my holy holy. Actually, maybe she would have been the one I would have married, but she was not born again. I always preached to them. I was too holy for all of them. So that is why sometimes when I look at what happened to me, and we used to talk, she knows all my stories. She lives not far from me. I know the family. I was the only one that attended our wedding because we are very close. I taught her to drive for you to know the closeness. So she knows the kind of person I am. I always give women very long rope. No, don't even come near to a place where you're going to tempt me. But the truth is that, do I want to remain like this? No, no, I don't want to. Because at one point, my children will go. Will I be living alone like this my whole age? No. I have a colleague that like that had a similar experience. The man is over 70 now. He lives alone. Every time the last time he got sick, I have to be the one to go and take him to. And every time I look at the man, I ask myself a question: is this the way I want to live my life when I'm at this age? I don't want it. I still want to remarry. I want to have someone I can hold, someone I can talk to, someone we can relate together. I've had a story of good marriages, though I never experienced it, but I want. So it's something you keep doing. You keep doing. I'm believing God to help you. It is like the Bible said, it's the Holy Spirit that helps our infirmity. It is not by work, lest any man should boast. It's God that can help you. And you know one thing that I also discovered, like from my one of my HOD, he said anything that 40 years caught up with you, it is only God that can save you. Because at that 40, you have built, you have become a what Yoruba we call dry fish. So it's Holy Spirit that can help you to break it. I hope I've been able to answer your questions.
Thank you, Lawrence. One of the things we also do on this platform of Relationship Realities is to connect people with the resources that they might need, to address the different challenges that they have. If you are willing, there are, professionals that we can connect you with, because the truth is, even as we're praying and trusting God, God will send help through people. God also uses people to help us. There is wisdom that God has deposited in people to help us even in the different challenges. So if you're willing, after today's engagement and interaction, we can share some of the resources, professional help that is available that we can connect you with, and they should be able to help you and put you on the path of recovery, if that's an appropriate word. Will that be okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your willingness, your honesty today. We really appreciate that. If we have more questions or comments regarding Lawrence's story, we will take that after our second storyteller has shared her own story. So that will be part of what we use to wrap up today's proceedings. So our second storyteller is Danisa Hobbs, who we all know as Lady D. I will hand over to her. Come into the light and share your story with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Lawrence, too, for preceding me. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go behind that, but I'm going to go ahead. My name is Danisa. A lot of you know me as Lady D. Let's see. I'm not telling the year I was born, Brother Lawrence, but I'm just going to say that I am a mature adult with 4 lovely children. I was once married. I guess I don't call myself a widower anymore, but I am single, but I was once a widow. I work in the human services field in the US. I'm a licensed social worker, and I practice therapy. I'm not doing that now under supervision, and I think that I'll go back into that in the near future. So what I wanted to kind of hone in on was addiction. And so I have never been addicted to anything, maybe ice, but my parents were both addicts. My father, I didn't see, I probably can count on one hand how many times I did see him, and he was addicted to crack cocaine throughout my lifetime. Then what we wouldn't all know probably as an overt addict. It could be seen by all. It was known by all. He would for sure give me empty promises, tell me he'll come see me, and choose not to, what have you. Then my mother was more of what you would call a covert alcoholic, and these are my own terms. But I will put in the chat box some resources as well. But so to my knowledge, I don't think she would drink every day, but in one setting, I think SAMHSA here in America kind of delineates what is an alcoholic and what would be considered an alcoholic. And so while she wouldn't drink every day that I'm aware of, she would drink multiple times in one setting, which would also that would also qualify her as an alcoholic. So with that being said, I was like, look, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I grew up in America in an era where cocaine was like in the 70s and it was introduced. And I seen throughout my lifetime and really my formative years how the drugs really affected the lives of people around me, like kids being separated from parents, financial strain when once these people were had cars, employment, all of these things, it just dwindled down to nothing. And so for me, I thought, you know, I don't want that life. I'm going to choose not to. But what I will tell you is that it affected me in a way I didn't see. So while I didn't choose to do any of those things or practice abuse in those ways, Adult Children of Alcoholics has like this page. You can go to it, and they call it the laundry list. And I remember looking at this laundry list for the first time, and I thought, that's me. And so some of the things that kind of came out of that was you become approval seeking of others. You live from the viewpoint of a victim, and therefore you attract kind of love and friendship and where you're codependent. You have feelings of guilt if you try to stand up for yourself. For me, they said some become addicted to excitement. But for me, it was stuffing the feelings and then attempting to be like a person's all in all. Like, I'm going to rescue you somewhat like I wanted to or attempted to do my parents. And so I would get into relationships where they had issues. And I'm aware they had issues, but I'm like, well, no, I'm going to like suffer with them and be there for them. And, you know, we can do this, we can make this work, which did not allow me to have my own personality, my own mindset, my own really self-acceptance in relationships. And so I remember, so I've been a widow for almost 8 years. In a couple of months, it'd be 8 years. And so I've only had one relationship. I'm being like super transparent, you guys. I've only had one relationship since then, and it's really different than when I was when I first dated my late husband. But I said that to say that I noticed a pattern. And I remember when it did not work with this gentleman, I ran to a therapist. I thought, I need help. I see a pattern here, and I don't want that to be the issue, or I don't want that to affect a relationship down the road, because again, I see myself in relationships where I was the end all be all. Like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do this. And really, they call it the rescue syndrome. And I thought, I don't want to rescue anybody anymore. If anybody needs to be rescued, it needs to be me. So I want to learn about me. And I found a therapist who every week they would ask me, what is it that you need? Or what is it that you want? And for weeks, I found it very, very, very hard to answer that question, because I thought, I don't know. I've never been given a voice to say that. I've never even really had the chance to think inwardly, because I was a child of addicts. And when you're a child of an addict, you are on, but depending on who you are, the characteristics, the innate things in you. For me, I was on pins and needles. I wanted, you know, I'm like, if you learn family theory and systems, I am the compliant child. I want everything to go right. I'm just trying to make it through the day. I don't want to upset my mother or anyone else in the house who's drinking. So I'm going to comply. And so for my therapist to ask, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? I thought, I don't know. And finally they said, you don't seem to be fond of this question. And I thought, no, I'm not, because I didn't know how to answer it. But finally, after literally weeks, I was able to grasp that question and at first give small answers to that. And then finally think about, oh, this is what I desire. This is what I need. And so it's helped me by way of disrupting the default of my relationships, of going into rescuing people. And really, from a Christian standpoint, seeing that as almost like a ministry too. Like, I need to help this person. I need for me, where I am in my walk with Christ now, and even in my mental and emotional state, I want to have a partner who is equal. Like, I'm not rescuing anybody. They're not rescuing me. We are coming to the platform at an equal footing, because it's not really, I can't rescue anybody. I can minister to someone, I can help someone, but it's only God who can rescue, who can deliver, and those things. And I really don't think in a relationship we should go into a relationship saying, you're my end all. Like, no, that's I think that's a misnomer for sure. That's romanticizing relationships. So for me, that's where I am. But it took a while, because of course, when you've grown up with addicts, and please hear me out too, parents, please don't think that children are like, they see what you're doing. I used to be a therapist too, to 12 to 14-year-olds. They see what's happening. If you're arguing in the house, they see it. If you guys don't get along together, they see it. They know everything, right? They may not tell you. They may not show that to you. And I tell you that not to make you feel guilty or shameful, but I'm telling you that to let you know, to have conversations with your children, to let them know that, mommy and daddy's having problems, or if mommy's having a problem, or if daddy's having a problem, it's not their problem. And while we don't want to invite our children to be rescuers of us, I think there is a time and space, depending on the maturity of the child, that you be honest with them and say, hey, mommy's working out some things or what have you, but also to know that it's imperative that we work on ourselves, so that we can be healthy parents, that we can be healthy spouses, that we can be healthy mates, friends, all of those things. So I think that's all that I have to share at this time.
Thank you, Lady D. Thank you, Danisa. What would you prefer, actually? I should ask, Lady D or Danisa?
You know what? I like Lady D, so we can stick with
it. Okay, Danisa is actually so formal. Okay, so we like Lady D. All right, thank you, Lady D. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for being open about your experiences as a child and how those experiences with your parents' addiction have influenced your choices in your current life. So thank you, we appreciate it. Do we have questions for Lady D from our audience? I thank you once again for joining us for today's hangout. We really appreciate that. I just want to read a comment from Tobechuku. She says, I was that child who knew when my parents were 100% and when they were not. So that's actually correct about what Lady D says, that we or sometimes parents will think their kids don't know what is going on around, but the kids are very, very aware. They're very clued up on what's going on. Okay, I'm opening the floor for our questions to Lady D. If you have one, just unmute and go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, Lady D.
Hello.
Hi, this is Simi. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I particularly love what you said, because, that makes me really examine my life and think about the choices that I have made in men as well. And, that Captain Rescue, just go and rescue somebody. And, my parents weren't addicted or anything, but there was a point in growing up when my parents are still married and they're still alive, over 35 years of marriage, and they love each other and fight so much at the same time. I don't know, it's such a, I just couldn't understand it. What kind of crazy love is this? Especially when we were growing up, they would have this, nothing violent, but, such physical aggressiveness and cursing each other, especially my mom, just threatening him, touch me and see, they will beat you at the bus stop, they will beat you everywhere. It was like a very crazy, and we would be right there in the middle of this whole mess. So as you were just talking now, I was just like, connecting the dots and like, oh, could that be why? Was that why, you constantly trying to seek acceptance? I think I was talking to, I don't know if it was Ronke or someone, and we came to that tiny conclusion, even though we didn't dwell on it, like why I want to be right. Like, I want to, like, listen, hear me, acknowledge what I'm saying. I want to be right. And I think it's because I'm growing up in a house where people like shout over each other, before you can say something, even till recently, I'm like, you people are not going to take me down this path. I'm done having this shouting game with y'all, and that really, thank you so much for shedding that light, and now I'm now thinking to myself, I've never really gone for therapy in that regard. The therapy that I've gone for is domestic violence. And, I don't think my therapist was, or should I say we didn't have enough time, because my therapy was very short. My therapy session was short. We didn't get to that part where maybe she was going to get to my childhood. I don't know, but we didn't dig that deep. And I'm thinking to myself now, do I need therapy? Is there still some part of me that I still need to uncover? But I would say, what are the, right now, I know you said you've gone through therapy. What are the things that you are actively doing to make sure that you don't follow that pattern? Like, is there something you do on a daily basis, weekly basis, to tell yourself when it's about to happen? Because recently you reunited with somebody from my college, and he also gone through, is going through divorce right now. And that safe rescue mission just kicked in. Before I know it, I'm sending him links to Bible study. I'm sending him videos. I'm like saying, there you go again. Don't do it. So what are these practical things that you do to just stop that, kind of behavior?
So first of all, thank you for your question. Thank you for your vulnerability and transparency. One, I love that I have now this personal awareness. And for me, it started when I went to school. We had a self-care class. It was a whole class for an entire semester, half a semester on self-care. And I come from a family that self-care is just like, it's like almost like it's selfish. I too can, I'm aware, let me see now. I can resonate with like my mother was a very, she's passed away. She was a very, very aggressive woman, small, but aggressive. And the way that she handled things were very like, like she's going to cuss you out. Sometimes she would physically fight you if she felt like it was necessary, but you're going to know where she stands, right? And I thank the Lord for giving me a personal awareness that I can have self-care, and it's not selfish. I can take care of me first. And it's okay to do that. I think particularly for women, and I don't have research on this, you all, but I think it's stigmatized and I'll use the word Jim use socialized for women to be caretakers. We have an innate nurturing ability, right? And so then a lot of times that will also morph, particularly if you've had some type of trauma, into this rescue syndrome for some women, not all, but some. So one, having that to like, okay, what is it that I can, what is it that I do to take care of myself while I'm, I have children. At one point I had a husband, I have a job, I have work in the human services field. So I'm always dealing with other people and their issues and how to navigate that for them. What is it that I need for myself? And so that's one of the things that I do, Simi, that I have a weekly self-care like routine and whatever that looks like for me. I also have realized that I get to choose what I do, who I help. I am an empathetic person or empathic person. I am that way naturally. But I understand that I have to stop and think about who am I giving this help to? I have to stop and pray sometimes, because the Lord may be wanting to use me in this area, but he may not. That may be for somebody else to do. And when I realize, like you saying, you're like, wait. When I realize that, oh, I'm giving all these resources, I'm doing all these things, I'm starting to XYZ, that's when I like take a step back. Because I noticed, and having that personal awareness, I noticed that I'm getting into this mode of taking care of someone. And so that's a couple of things that I do. Also, one thing for me too, like it's been like in therapy, it's been eye-opening. I really think also, not really think, but also the ministry of the Holy Spirit to me in this time where I've not been with anybody, just to like know what I like, know about me, know what like today it's really cold where I am. It's like ice outside. I'm like, I don't want to go outside. And I have a friend who's pulling on me. Previously, I would have bundled up and went out because she wanted me to. But now I'm aware that it's not really what I want to do. So, giving myself the same patience that I would give my children, giving myself the same consideration that I would give a friend. Those are some of the things that I do as well. Did that answer, Simi?
Oh, yes. Very, very well. Thank you so much. Especially the self-care, because that's something I'm falling off the edge on that one. So I need to start doing that. Thank you.
It's okay. Yes, no worries.
Thank you, Lady D. I mean, that self-care really hit the note also with me. Being assertive about what you want for yourself, you determine the help that you offer. I like that. I was going to ask you something. You said being the compliant child was your coping mechanism because, and in doing that, it made you put your needs on the back burner in order, not to upset the cart. But now you have put the rescue syndrome aside. My question is, and I think you alluded to it a bit, how do you guard against running the risk of not being empathetic?
Ooh,
because
nice.
That was what was just ringing in my head as you said that.
So let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You're asking me because in my mind, I know that I can be overly empathetic. How do I guard against being unempathetic? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Okay. I can only answer this for me, is that because I'm naturally empathetic. Now, let me say this too. If I have to have this conversation again on TV, on national TV, I will tell everybody that I love my mother to pieces. You will not ever get me to say anything horrible about my mother. She did the very best that she can. She honestly was coping with something I'm aware of. And so to even think back upon her with an empathetic heart, it comes naturally to me. Like when I wanted to be mad at her, I thought, really the grace of God has been everything to me, and that I extend that grace to others. It comes quite natural, but there have been times where I thought, I could be burned. That's really what I would say. I will say I could be burned if I lend empathy to this situation. And really, it is really me having a question with myself, talking to the Lord and saying, Father, is this something that I can get into? Because please hear me out. Like, I'm not saying get into situations that like the Bible dictates not to, or conventional wisdom says don't do that, right? So with that exclusivity, it really comes natural to me to be empathetic, and with the heart of love. If I do become upset, or I have a conversation with myself and I say, you could be burned if you do this. But oftentimes I look at the end result and I think, is it worth it? is it worth it? And that's a question that I pose to myself, that I pose to the Lord. And if I get to go ahead, then I will. And oftentimes the Lord is not going to lead you into something that will set you back, so to speak. Yeah, so I'll stop there. But does that answer, Sister Jim?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Just one more from my side before I yield to the floor. You witnessed your parents' addiction, full flight. Were you ever blessed to witness their recovery? So did they ever get, the help they needed? Did they ever get better?
I wish that I could say yes, but unfortunately, they have not. Both my mother and my father passed away. Father was in his addiction until he passed away. And my mother, she got sick of terminal illness, and it kind of got worse toward the end. So unfortunately, all that I know, I was not. But I will say for my mother, I believe that I'm a believer today because she instilled such a love and a reverence for the Lord in me today. I know she prayed for me, and so I'll say that. But all that I know, unfortunately not.
I'm sorry about that, but thank you for your honesty. Thank you.
Thank you.
To our participants, do we have questions for our Lady D?
Not a question, but good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening.
Yeah, I was raising my hand when the first speaker was talking, and probably didn't say it. So not much of a question, more like reiterating certain things. I'll start from the first speaker. So he said something about being too spiritual, and in my heart, I was like, okay, I really don't think there's anything as being too spiritual. I feel like, okay, we can be quite moral. There's a difference between morality and spirituality. And please, I am not judging you. I'm just stating what I was just thinking in my head, number one. And number two, I wanted to encourage him to not blame himself for what she did, and it is her fault. It is not his own fault in the sense that how do I put it now? Her behavior it's on her. It shouldn't influence the way he reacts tomorrow to when he's okay. Let me just be open and be sincere. I just want to say that fornication, adultery is still bad. When it is right time, I'm sure some people, they tend to say, oh, because I was faithful and one woman was unfaithful, for that I'm not going to be faithful. I'm glad to know, sir, that you're a very well-rounded adult and you are not taking that kind of decision. I just wanted to commend you on that. I think that's huge and well done on that, sir. And then for the second speaker, thank you so much for, being your ability to, openly express such a story. I was really touched by it. And yes, anybody who is an empath or anybody who has the tendency to be able to understand how people feel tend to always want to be superwoman, want to save the day and all of that. But I'm glad that you have found a middle, I won't say, yeah, middle ground. I went to a school and our teacher told us something. She said, try not to be on the extreme right or the extreme left. Try to be a balanced individual. Be in the middle. So yes, I can see that you're definitely in the middle. I kind of consider self-care to be selfish. That's my personal opinion because I have seen too many times where people tell me, oh, self-care, and then they use it to justify selfishness. And one thing I noticed about these two speakers, they make reference to God and the Holy Spirit. And I assure you, if God and the Holy Spirit are your source, I mean Jesus Christ, obviously, if they are your source of inspiration, that's my opinion. If they are your source of inspiration, you really may never get it wrong. Every time you get it wrong, if you check it, if you really, really check it, you know that at some point self came in. So if you want to do self-care or you decide, okay, I'm not going to do things like this anymore, and you're not just doing it based on the fact that you're hurt or that based on the fact that you want to now take care of your own self because it's time or something like that, you get it wrong. You find yourself maybe in the far left or far right. But putting Jesus at the center, I think, is the best way to stay grounded. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Elizabeth. With reference to Elizabeth, Simi says, I guess what Lawrence meant by too spiritual is not facing or dealing with the reality while being spiritual. Okay, do we have any more questions for Lady D before I open the floor again for comments or questions with regards to our first storyteller? Okay, if we don't, Christelle, you had a question for Lawrence. Can you go ahead and ask? Christelle.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I just wanted to know if he, how he know if he was still traumatized or not, because the thing is, this actually failure in his marriage can be like something discouraging him to try again. How do we know that he's ill and ready to go forward and to build something new with someone else?
Thank you. Well, maybe let me start from the last person that said something about being too spiritual. You know, uh, I got born again when I was 13, and then it was in the days of SU. As I don't know how many people know the days of SU. It's heaven. Heaven is the goal. And then we sometimes in those days we hardly use our senses. Everything is God. You see fire like you tempted God. I told you that time I don't use medication. I was sick to the point of death, and I said no. If I will go to heaven now, I'm ready to meet God. When I should have used something, but that's what I mean by being too spiritual. I could see that this person, this relationship won't work. But I was still trying to prove that yes, there's nothing God cannot do. And I entered into it. It's like tempting God. I know we have things like that. So I didn't use my head. So now, if I want to go into any other relationship, see, I will open my ears, my eyes, my head, my brain, because I have to sit down with that person and define it. We have to, I know what I'm expecting from it. She will know what she's expecting from it. Unlike the other one, I enter into a relationship with somebody that never want to work. She graduated long before me. She never worked. So I was working, I was doing everything for my see, I was carrying a burden that was too heavy for me, yet with pressure. So if I want to enter into another relationship, it has to be well defined. So I won't be quote too spiritual. I will open my eyes, my ears, my brain. I will ask people questions, ask people's advice, so that I know I'm really entering into something that is going to last me all the days of my life. I don't want to jump into it, come out again, and in the name of you. So that is what I meant by that. So I'm ready for new relationship, but not that I want to jump into any relationship. I've tried before, my friends will always say you can't remain like this. And I've tried it, but there's something that I've seen, especially from those ones that have most of the people that I've met are looking for someone to put all their bodies on. Like, let me get a man. You know, it's a challenge in this part of the world. A woman want to get into marriage or relationship. I'm not saying everybody, but some, they just want to get it so that they have a man that is responsible. As a boy, I was growing up, my brother would be telling my sister, you know, your own is easy. Once you get married, your problem is solved. You, as a boy, you have to work, you know, and it's not right. If I want to get married now, I want to marry somebody who has a vision, who has a work, who has a dream, not somebody who will be a body that I have to be dragging all along. So I'm open to relationship, but I'm not, I have to define it. I have to be very open about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Christelle? I hope your question is answered.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Actually, still there is just a little part that is not answered, is the fact that, are you sure? And also it's goes along with what Lady D said before. Are you sure that you're not going to be attracted to the same kind of woman? Are you sure that, how do you know that you deal with all of that and you will be able to say, okay, this is a red flag, I am not staying, I am leaving, and not, okay, maybe I can cope with it. This is actually the question.
Yes, you know, my first relationship too, it's not that I didn't see red flags. I saw it, but I think it's something that my my Christian faith could handle. And that's what I said, that if I want to go into relationship with anybody now, it has to be well defined. Like I said, I know what I'm looking for, and then the person too will know what she's looking for. And we see, it's just like what the Bible says, can two work together except they agree? And if you want to build a house, you will sit down and count the cost. And that is what I'm going to do now. I'm not just going to enter into it with faith that everything will everything's going to be all right. So I hope I answer your question.
Yes, thank you. Very clear. Thank you, Lawrence.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions or comments about the stories we have heard this evening? Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate.
Dr. Jen.
Sorry, Adirunke.
Yi's hand is up.
Please go ahead. I can't see her from my side.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand where the last speaker, a question is coming from. And I understand clearly, Mr. Lawrence, also, I totally appreciate, you know, his stand, his learned from the first one. I think she is saying that, you know, if you are not free, you can't free another person. If you are not healed and you go into a relationship, you are going to go with a lot of baggage, a lot of load that is definitely going to contaminate your new relationship if you have not been healed from the past. You know, so I think more like, what measures have you taken to ensure that you are totally and completely healed before going into the other? And then he talking about the spiritual aspect, being not everything is spiritual, being too spiritual. I totally appreciate your response, Mr. Lawrence. That is, I think, one of the problems that we are having right now, you know, when people don't go for counseling to get clarity, when people don't know who they are. I keep telling singles that you need to discover yourself first of all, then discover the person. The other person needs to discover his or herself, because when you are coming to marriage, these are two different nations coming to form a new nation. And we all know that in every nation, you have your language, your values, your culture, your traditions. You know, we are coming with all of this into a new marriage, to a marriage. So whose culture and tradition is going to be practiced? So, sir, I will say that for all, and even for you, anyone that wants to go into marriage, it is very good to go for clarity, even for the area of sex. If you go to a premarital counsel, there's such a thing as sexual compatibility That's not where you do practice. You know, there are documents and psychometric tools that will show if you are sexually compatible. For example, somebody says, I like oral sex. Okay, the woman says, I like oral sex. The man says, God forbid, anyama. There is no sexual compatibility there. So I think with the aid of the counselor, the specialist, you know, that area will be trashed out before they go into okay, so how do we compromise in this area? She doesn't like it, you like it. Where can we meet? Where's the middle ground we are going to meet? So these are things that we get to trash out in the place of premarital counseling, you know, to help. And like he said, using our head. God has given us this brain to use. Every time, you know, it's good to pray. I am totally a praying person and I love prayer. But Mars and Sars, I have discovered in scripture, he said, cast your burdens upon me. It didn't say your responsibilities. A lot of times we hold on to our burdens and cast our responsibilities on God. Do your part and let God do his part. Do yours. Your own is to go seek for knowledge. Nobody came to this earth with the brain of relationship. We go to school to learn how to become doctors, how to become therapists, how to become lawyers. Why can't we go seek for knowledge, relevant information to become good parents, you know, and a good wife and a good husband? It is all there. And if you're waiting for God to come down from heaven to put that, no, he has already put everything in the heart of men. He's already put this in books, and many are given in the form of books. So let's go seek knowledge, you know, and let's not die under the cloth of religion. I am very, very saddened because, sir, a lot of people in church are bleeding. And just because they said, okay, church, there is no divorce, they just want to keep licking their wounds and crying in silence. A lot is happening. But if we can just open people's eyes to understand that, hey, you can go seek knowledge. God is not against it. God has given us brains and, you know, people that will put these things together so that we can learn and be better person. You need to go for self-discovery. There can never be effective communication in a marriage if you don't know your temperament, your partner's temperament, your personality, your partner's personality. You don't know your emotional love language, and you don't have emotional intelligence. Abba, we will always communicate and miss. And these are things that are coded even in scriptures. And it takes the eyes of the spirit to dig this thing out. But some people have been given that grace to bring them out and simplify them for us. Let's go seek knowledge so that we don't die. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sis. Help is available, is what she's saying. Let us seek help where there is help. Let us seek help where there is help. We cannot abandon our responsibilities in the name of spirituality. I think that's just absolutely fantastic. Tommy, please go ahead with your question or your comment. Thank you, Sister Yilayefa.
Thank you. I love the sound of my name. Say it again.
Yilayefa. Thank you for that. Okay, I
that
hear.
Means there is nothing like mother.
Oh, okay. From what language is that?
Bayelsa, Ijo.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Tommy, please, I hear your hand is up. Go ahead and ask your question or give your comment. Thank you. Tommy, okay. While we wait for Tommy, Simi, I hear you have a comment or a question.
Yes. I just wanted to say that the place of therapy is very important and it shouldn't be downplayed, but also because we won't go for therapy for every single issue in our life and everything in our life. Like, apart from relationship, you also want to be a human being that can, you know, reason on your own, and not having to pick up the call to ask questions about every single decision you want to make. And I think that is where, and I'm talking as a Christian, I want to acknowledge the fact that not everybody on this call might be Christians, but I know we've been hearing spirituality since, and I just wanted to like clarify that there is no part in the Bible where it connotes that God lords his will over us. And there's no part in the Bible where our human nature has been dismissed. In fact, there are so many parts in the Bible where our human nature has been acknowledged, and the sovereignty of God has been acknowledged as well. And then this sovereign God who knows all things has said, come, let us reason together. God gave us our faculties, our mind, our brain, our capacity to think, to brood over something, to discover, and all of that. And that's and it's that curiosity that creates inventions and knowledge, and people writing all those books, building skyscrapers, technological advancement. So God does not, even in our relationship or day-to-day activities, God is not mad with us when we make a decision, but he wants us to acknowledge him. And that's what the scripture says, like, in all your ways acknowledge God. A lot of times we don't reason with God. We think that God is okay, because we've read so much of Revelation and we've heard so many praise and worship songs, we see God as this very big and mighty image, which he is, that is sitting in heaven and is so far off. And the Bible says, oh, your ways are so far away from mine and all of that. But God is everywhere. That's the mystery of God. He's in heaven, he's in your heart, he's in your home, he's in your room, he's everywhere, he's omniscient. So an understanding of that is I like the way Lady D was talking about, I can get a picture of how she talks to God. Like, she'll say, oh God, it's like we should have conversations with God. We should be vulnerable with God. We should tell God how we are feeling. We should, because the truth is, he already knows, if what you're feeling is wrong, so don't be, he's a good father. He's not going to, strike you when you have a contrite heart, so just come to, like, we should reason with God. I found that anytime I sit down and I reason with God and I, have this conversation with God, a lot of things that we tend to like, trying to kind of make it abstract or bogus. One of the ministry of the Holy Spirit is to demystify those things and to help us see it from a point of logic and reasoning and proper reasoning. So, and that's why the Bible says the Holy Spirit is a counselor. That does not, of course, erase the part of the human counselors, because like Sister Yini rightly said, all that knowledge, people have gone to acquire it. People are graced to understand it better than you do. But there's also that part of, in our daily activities, in our daily decision making, in our daily understanding of ourselves, where we reason with God. So I want to encourage us to reason with God. Don't think that, oh, God is going to come and strike me because this thing that I'm thinking of is such a horrible thing. The Bible clearly states it. Yes, fine. The Bible clearly states it, but it's okay to say, God, I am so tempted to do this thing. I need your help. Why shouldn't I do it? Just let me know why I shouldn't just do it. Give me a sign or something. And most times, in fact, all the time, I'm yet to see anybody who has such level of relationship with God and God disappointed them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Tobechukwu, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Just a disclaimer, I'm at the airport, so if you hear noises, don't be alarmed. Okay, they started. All right, I'm just gonna be walking around, but just forget about the background noise. So I want to point out two things, okay, or more than two things. One, we need to demystify what therapy is. Therapy is not a bad place. Therapy is a place you go to acquire or to gain skills or tools to do life better. Unless you're living in isolation, you're living by yourself, you're living under a rock or in a niche, then you are not in a relationship. A relationship doesn't have to mean um, a romantic relationship. You're dealing with people. And like somebody pointed out, we're from different upbringing, notion, culture, belief, foundation. So when I know that, the way I'm doing this doesn't work, I don't have to be hurt or in a toxic or abusive relationship. I'm sorry, sir. I don't have to be hurt or in a toxic, unhealthy relationship to go to therapy. I can actually have a fantastic life and still go to therapy to acquire skill, to do life better. Because I am, Tobechuku now is limited by everything she's known. From my upbringing, my experience, what I have known up until this moment. But somebody can tilt my eyes towards something that I might not even know it's possible. Or I might not even know that, girl, before you put, in order to boil water, you pour it in a pot and turn up your gas and boil water. But somebody can tell me you're wasting gas. You can actually buy a machine that can do that for you, easier and faster, and the same result. So we need to demystify that. And also another thing, this impression that I think let me see her name. I want to get this right. I want to get this right. I forgot okay, Yefa pointed that
Good.
out, We I know you're giving everybody A for pronouncing your name, so I'm trying. So she pointed out that, so many things about learning something, going for counseling. People shy away from that. And we have this impression that, our parents did this with trial and error. They didn't go to therapy, they didn't go for counseling. They've lived for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. They have a fantastic marriage. But the thing is, we're not in that marriage with our parents. We're outsiders in that marriage. We don't know how they are dealing with their stuff. And if we can deal with those stuff ourselves in that way. So going for counseling doesn't mean that things are wrong, or therapy doesn't mean that things are wrong. God has already given us everything that we need to do life. He's just a helper in this whole thing. Like we've been equipped to do this. But then we need like guidelines, signposts that would point us towards doing this in a better way with less effort. You can imagine I'm in a relationship with someone and I'm like, oh, babe, let's go for counseling. And he's like, I don't believe in counseling. I don't care if you speak in tongues. I don't care like if you're a pastor. Like that's a red flag for me, because now in my marriage, this is my assumption. If we have a problem, you're not going to seek for help. So that is a no-brainer for me that Tobechiku, this person is not somebody you're going to do life with. Because if I have a problem in my marriage, I am going to ask for help. I am going to reach out for help. That's who I am. So I also need a partner that would align with that foundation, that would align with that my thought process, that this is how, if I get to a point in my life where I need to find a solution for something, I don't have shame. I will scream for help and people will come and help me. So if you're somebody that would like us to like, babe, let's just spam and, pretend, it can't work regardless of your spiritual maturity. So that cannot work for me. So we need to understand and um, especially with this whole therapy, because for me, self, I'm like, if people are gaining skills and doing life better with therapy, I am looking for a therapist. Like, I need recommendations for this because I feel like I can learn so much. I can learn so much. Maybe I can even do life better because I'm always dealing with people. And when I'm dealing with people, regardless of if it's romantic or just a platonic relationship, I want to do it better. I want to gain skill. I want to know the application of how to, enrich my life and make it flow freely. So that's all that I really, really want to highlight and point out. Let's not look at our parents and everything that they did. We're spectators when it comes to that. Because I can tell you that my parents might have a disagreement and we go to bed and we come back. They're not telling us how they settled that thing. So in your mind, you're like, if I'm in a marriage and I have problem with my husband, somehow he's supposed to disappear. And that's not true. It's not going to work. So that's all I have to say. And thank you, Lady D. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence, for being transparent. I did not know that you guys were like, I know like Ronke has been hosting this, but I've been missing. So I thank you guys for this opportunity to join, to soak in and, to elevate my knowledge today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tobetruku, for your comments. Thank you. Before
Can I say thank you, my darling Toby? I appreciate it.
Before I hand over to Adirunke, because we have 10 more minutes on the clock, I just want to say, Adirunke, do we have a portal where we can access like professional services, especially those who have been on this platform, to either be a guest panelist or a storyteller? Do we have like a portal where their details are and we can access this for anyone amongst us who may need such information?
Okay, so this is a very good idea. We don't have, however, what we can do is to create one. So for everyone here, so by I think before the next show, so we would just share like a link where you can click if you need help. So you can also tell us which of the speakers and specifically you want to speak with. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If we do not have any more comments or questions for our panelists, I would like to take a final word from both of them. Lady D, you go first. Final words.
All right, Sister Jim, put me on the spot. But what I would thoroughly encourage, as Toby Chukwu said, is that therapy for me was simply a resource. If you ever get with a therapist and they tell you what to do, leave, go find another one, because that's not what therapists do. One of the things that I gained was that personal awareness, personal acceptance, which leads to personal love, our self-love. And I think that is the healthiest place to be in any ship, I call it, any relationship. And so I would very much encourage you all to do that, and if therapy is not something that you feel like will be a resource to you at this moment, this time and space in life, always keep it on the shelf in the back of your mind. But even if not that, self-care, do that for you, do that for your children, do that for your spouse, do that for anybody that you are in relationship with. And then thirdly, I would say that we are works in progress. Sorry, I'm always progressing, and I believe that the Lord, and that's my faith, that the Lord intends for us to do so. And so, if you find yourself stuck or any such point in time, be self-reflective. I love reflection and self-reflection. To do that and to know that I have goals, I have things that I'm doing, but I would always encourage you to be progressing, and whatever that looks like for you. No comparison, but just to be authentically and genuinely you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lady D. Thank you for those words of encouragement, of wisdom. We thank you for your honesty. We thank you for your openness. Thank you. God bless. Lawrence, over to you. Final words. You are on mute, so unmute yourself, sir.
Sorry. I want to thank everybody for being here and then for your good words. I've been able to learn a lot of things even from this meeting. What I like to say is part of what I've learned over the years, and it's just that when you want to go into relationship, just be open and be sincere. There's no point of beating around the bush. You're talking about your life here. I've learned my lesson, and I I know what I want, and then what I don't want, and I like to know the person I am going into relationship with, what she likes and what she doesn't like, and that's it's like the Bible says, can two work together except they agree? So if you don't agree, there's no point of going into it. So is like somebody asked a question if I've been able to come out of the disappointment of my first relationship. I have been. Actually, when the whole thing, at one point, I was not talking to women. That time I thought I forget it. When we are talking of women, that's the way they were. So the mentality was there. But now I've been able to come out of that. I'm the one that joined this group. Before I won't join any group. I became like a lake. I decided not to relate with anybody. Just even if I'm going to die without a woman, I'm ready to go to heaven like that. There's always Bible verse for everything. If your right hand will make you to sin, cut it off. But later I realized that life is not like that. If you fall down, you have to look back and see what made you to fall down and make the correction. But in all these things that have happened to me in life, God has remained faithful. I have the best children that someone could ever think of. They are the best thing that ever happened to me. But if I was not in that relationship, I wouldn't have. Or I don't know. So all things work together for good to them that love God and to those who are called according to his purpose. So no matter what has happened, it still work together for my good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for sharing with us today. I have learned a lot from both our storytellers. I've learned from the stories that they have shared today, and I really appreciate the contributions, solid quality contributions that we've had from all of you who are part of our audience today in today's community hangout. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to hand over to Adirunke now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jem. Thank you, everyone. It was actually it was the time. I really appreciate everyone for taking time to be part of today's hangout. God bless us. And I would say this to round up in just 2 minutes. Listening to the contribution, the story, and what I can actually pick is just the word choice. And it's a one word, but it speaks volume. And that means that in order to live a healthy relationship lifestyle or healthy life, is a choice you have to make. You want to stick with unhealthiness is also a choice. So the choice is always ours. We always have the choice. However, sometimes we recognize the fact that some things goes beyond our own control. And that's why we keep hearing the word therapy, counseling, therapy, counseling. This is a tool. It is not an advice, not a talk show. It's a tool it's a guide, what we just need when you get there. Like Lady D said, if you get to a place where they are telling you what to do, we don't do that. We don't tell you what to do. It's a guide. We just walk you through. So in conclusion, guys, it's all about our choices. Lawrence speaks from the angle of a choice he made. He went into the relationship knowing fully well that it was all red flags and all of that. He went eventually, and he stayed in a toxic relationship. With the help of God, it came out. He also made, as in, even when God is actually stretching forth his hand to help him, he can still decide to stay because of my children, because I don't want to be nailed single dad or single parent. But he made a choice to come out of the toxic relationship. So is Lady D. Lady D could actually make the choice, because what we've heard so far is always that when you are a family or a child of an addict, you always be an addict. But she made a choice not to be one. So it's always in our, with the help of God, with the help of the Holy Spirit, we are not trying to make this place like a churchy environment. So permit me, if you are not a Christian, please. So whatever thing you believe in, right? I'm just still saying it like, right, we still have a choice. Please, let's always make the right choices. Because when we make the wrong choices, it's just like us taking a journey of 4 days or 40 days, turning it into 40 years. It's a painful route to go. We've been there, I've been there. Yeah. So please, guys. So thank you. Like I said, let's learn to make a healthy choice. So I also put a link on the platform for any of our members, anybody joining us for the first time. If you're not a member and you would like to be part of this community, outside this Zoom meeting, we have a WhatsApp group where we also still do live together. So on the group, I will also share a link. So in case you want to see any of the counselors, please. And also, finally, if you have a story you want to share with us, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm available. We are here to learn, right? We are here to learn. God bless everybody. Thank you, Dr. James. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Lady D. Aditola, I really appreciate you. Tobe Chuku, Priscilla, Nim, Sim. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Olusholami, thank you. Christilla, thank you for joining us, sis. Thank you. We learned that this is your first time. I hope you enjoyed it. Ying, thank you, sis. Thank you. God bless you. I'm going to catch you in the next room. Roslyn, thank you. Thank you. Sister Doi, God bless you, ma. Ukeme, my guy, thank you. Oluwashola, God bless you. Jenny Mio, Elizabeth, thank you. Yitus, God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us. So the next show is coming on the last Saturday. So where we have our, is coming up in the morning, 10 a.m. GMT +1. So have a nice evening and God bless you. I love you. I love you. Thank you for supporting this mission. God bless you all. Thank you. All right, bye. Thank you. Christina, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jem. I appreciate. Jennifer, thank you. Sim. Toves.
Thank you, everyone. It was a nice one.
Yeah.
Dr. Jem, God bless you. I always love your smile,